I'm going to give a little bit of overview of the Kentucky Coal Association. I'll save the future of the coal industry maybe for a dialogue between us when we get into this. We represent more than 90% of Kentucky's coal industry. We have 14 member companies, over 100 associate members. Those associate members range from law firms to environmental consulting companies, anybody that does business with the coal industry. We also have this program. You all have all seen the Friends of Coal logo on the license plates. That money is used to provide scholarships for mining and engineering students at the University of Kentucky, as well as do public advocacy for pro-coal policy. If you look about Kentucky Coal, we're down 28% in production in the year 2016. Now what's different about that number is we actually had a marginal increase in the first quarter of 2017. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. We're now 5th in the nation in terms of a coal producer, down from number 3. It's always been Wyoming, West Virginia, Kentucky. Now it's Wyoming, West Virginia, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. We actually fluctuate between Pennsylvania. We trade off in terms of who produces more monthly, so we're between 4 and 5th. We have 2 different coal fields. We have the Appalachian region, and then the Central Appalachian region, and then we have the Illinois Basin. So the Illinois Basin, of course, we have a lot thicker seams. You'll hear that in different articles. And we primarily use steam coal. However, I do want to say something about the other type of coals that we have and why we've seen a little bit of uptick, especially in other states like West Virginia, the coal market, is we have another sort of coal called metallurgical coal, or a higher carbon coal. And that coal is used for steel making and is used for different applications that require higher heat. We do not have a lot of metallurgical coal in Kentucky, but we do have a lot of higher quality coals that are higher than a thermal coal quality, higher carbon content, like a PCI, pulverized coal injection, or stoker coals. And that's where we've seen a little bit of growth in terms of what we've been producing over the first quarter of 2017, not at least in the Appalachian region, not in the steam market. So I want to, and we can talk about that later on. So predominantly, our steam coal comes from Western Kentucky, just to give everybody the... Okay, if you look at this looks at coal production in Kentucky from 2008 to 2016. When I put this presentation together, I didn't have the first quarter of 2017, but just let's consider it flatline for all intents and purpose right now. My next slide shows a little bit more bleak. I look at this, and please don't look at this as numbers. I should change this slide because this slide indicates human beings and human lives. And it's very important that as we look at this and as we look at market factors versus non-market factors in the energy environment in which we operate on, that we do take into consideration the well-being of human welfare and the quality of human life in terms of the economic impact that our policy decisions have. There's just an overview, and you can see kind of where we're at in terms of coal production as a nation. That looks starkly different in the first quarter of 2017, especially when you look out west, and especially when you look in West Virginia. Both West Virginia added nearly 1,000 coal jobs, over 900 and a little over 900 jobs in the first quarter of 2017. So that's why I get into the future. It's really kind of up in the air for the coal industry right now. 100 days is not enough time to reverse policies that were put in place over the last 8 years. The war on coal, which is real, and some say, well, there's no war on coal. There absolutely was. And we see that in terms of just over government regulation. When I look at market factor, a market factor is something like low natural gas prices. Low natural gas prices mainly due because of where we're here for innovation, right? Innovation that allowed us to unlock Shell. We knew it was there, but we didn't actually have the application to go in and get it. So that is a market factor. That will absolutely affect the price and the utilization of coal. However, it is not enough to do the damage that we see here and we see here to a particular industry. That is also from a non-market factor, which I call government regulation, and I will argue for over-government regulation. Policies that essentially targeted a specific industry, industry and did it through multi-agency regulation. That's another very important part to this. So where do we go from here? We're always going to advocate for the fact that 83% of Kentucky's power is produced by coal. 83%. The other roughly 17 or so is produced by natural, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Barry, I think it's the other 17's produced, or the cabinet is produced by natural gas, and then you have a marginal that's produced by renewables. And coal is a baseload power, meaning that it is different from natural gas. Natural gas automatically hits the power plant, it's burned right there. So if there's a disruption in the line, you can see from a grid reliability standpoint, coal provides just kind of a different type of power, similar to nuclear, where it's a base load. It can be stored on site. We know how much we have and we know how much we can use. So we look at that as a very big advantage, and a very big advantage that Kentucky has in order to grow. We are a poor state. We have big problems in this state. And I would say that taxing our way out of those problems are not going to happen. So what do we have to do? We have to grow. Well, how do we grow? We bring jobs. But how do we get jobs into Kentucky? Big jobs. Aluminum jobs. How do we do this? We do it by providing affordable and reliable electricity. Well, how do we provide affordable and reliable electricity? Well, here in Kentucky we do so because we utilize coal, a resource that we have here, a resource that we know is useful, and we put that into what we call the cycle of life. All right? So that through affordable and reliable energy, we were able to attract industry here, we were able to create jobs, and then allow those jobs to benefit human beings, people. Allow people, our neighbors, people that are in poverty, people that have been decimated in eastern Kentucky, to not only diversify their economies, which is very important. You're not going to hear me stand up here before you and say that we shouldn't be diversifying in eastern Kentucky, or that coal mining is going to be the way forward for our state till the end of time. No, it's very important that we diversify, and we should have those conversations. But we should not artificially decimate one industry before its useful lifetime. And that's what we talk about. Coal's not only been an innovation driver since the Industrial Revolution, but for some reason in our thought process and in our rhetoric, we have stopped it there. We said, yes, it was good for the Industrial Revolution, but now we need to move on. I would argue this, that coal has innovated and grown and adapted not only through the Industrial Revolution, but into technologies today. And we see that with working with our utility sectors. We see that with reducing emissions. But we need to be careful in making sure that we do not pursue policies that prematurely decimate an industry that will essentially create very distressed economic ramifications for our people here, especially our people in eastern Kentucky. So with that being said, I'm going to show you a little video, if I can get it to pull up. So you'll see that. That's kind of that's our approach to this, is we don't, and I'll also let you know this, we're not against other forms of energy. The coal industry isn't. We're just for the most affordable and reliable energy. And we don't, more importantly, is that we do believe that we should be very careful when we look at subsidizing other forms of energy, and other forms of energy that could potentially impact low economic regions in our state. So when we have energy forms that are currently essentially being subsidized by some of the poorest sections in our state, we need to be very careful of how we look at moving forward.